I'm like a lion. You're the prey, I can sense it.
A double murderer sits on Florida's death row right now. His face is covered in swastika tattoos. He strangled one woman in her sleep, then ran over another victim up to 20 times. And thousands of people online are calling him attractive and fundraising for his defense. This is the story of Wade Wilson, the man prosecutors called the most poor representation of a man that there could ever be. A new documentary just dropped on Paramount Plus that's already breaking the internet, and what it reveals about his crimes, his trial, and the disturbing cult following he gained will make you question everything you think you know about true crime culture. I'm going to take you through every brutal detail, but first, you need to understand how a killer became a social media phenomenon. On January 20th, 2026, Paramount Plus released Handsome Devil, Charming Killer, a 3-part documentary about Wade Wilson, a Florida man currently on death row for murdering 2 women in 2019. But here's what makes this case different from every other true crime story you've heard. Wade Wilson didn't just become infamous for his crimes, he became a social media sensation. After his arrest, something disturbing happened. People, mostly women, started flooding social media with comments about his appearance. They set up fundraisers, they created online petitions, they sent him letters of support in jail. Let me be crystal clear about what we're talking about here. This is a man who murdered 2 innocent women in the most brutal ways imaginable, and yet he gained thousands of supporters online who, apparently, looked past that because of his looks. The prosecutor in his case, State Attorney Amira Fox, didn't hold back. She said, "This defendant is no idol. It is disgraceful and pitiful to hold him up as such." But before we get to the trial and the controversy, you need to know who Wade Wilson really is. And trust me, the real story is far darker than anything you've seen on TikTok. Wade Stephen Wilson was born May 20th, 1994 in Tallahassee, Florida. His biological parents were teenagers when he was born, and they eventually gave him up for adoption. Wade was adopted by Cindy and Steve Wilson, who later wrote a letter to the court describing him as a joyful child who loved his parents. But something changed. According to his adoptive parents, Wade became delusional after his drug addiction began. They pleaded with the court. The system failed him on that fateful day in 2019. But here's the thing, the system didn't fail Wade Wilson. Wade Wilson had been failing society for years. His criminal history reads like a horror movie. Starting in 2012, he racked up arrests for sexual assault, burglary, child cruelty, and firearms offenses. He served 2 separate prison sentences, one for burglary and grand theft in 2013, another for firearms theft in 2017. In 2015, he was charged with sexual battery and kidnapping in Tallahassee, but was acquitted at trial. In 2018, he emerged as a figure but was never charged in the murder conspiracy case of Denise Williams. In February 2019, just months before the murders, his ex-girlfriend reported to police that Wade beat and strangled her. Authorities said they didn't find probable cause to arrest him. Read that again. His ex-girlfriend reported being strangled. Police did nothing. And 7 months later, he would strangle 2 women to death. By the time October 2019 rolled around, Wade Wilson was a ticking bomb. And on October 7th, 2019, he exploded. Here's what happened on that day, and I'm warning you, these details are disturbing. October 7th, 2019, Wade Wilson walks into Buddha Live, a Fort Myers bar. There, he meets 35-year-old Kristine Melton and her friend Stephanie Sailors. Kristine Melton had moved from Illinois to Cape Coral, Florida, where she worked as a waitress. She loved Halloween. She had a quick wit and made everyone around her feel safe. Her cousin testified that she was precious, not just to me, but to everyone who knew her. After the bar closed, Wade, Melton, and Sailors went to the home of Jason Shepard, where they hung out for several hours. In the morning, they went to Melton's Cape Coral duplex. After sailors left, Wade Wilson did the unthinkable. He strangled Kristine Melton to death as she slept in her own bed. Then he stole her car and drove to see her girlfriend at her business in Fort Myers. When he tried to pull her into the car, she fought back. He viciously attacked her, but she managed to escape and call police. But Wilson wasn't done. A short time later, he saw 43-year-old Diane Ruiz walking along Cape Coral Street. Diane Ruiz was a mother, engaged to be married. She worked as a bartender at the Moose Lodge and hadn't missed a shift in 5 years. She was described as caring and hardworking. On that morning, she was walking to work for her 10 a.m. shift. Wilson pulled up next to her and asked for directions to a nearby school. It was a ruse. He lured her into Melton's stolen car. When Ruiz tried to exit the vehicle, Wilson attacked her. He beat her. He strangled her. Then he pushed her out of the car, and then he ran her over. Not once, not twice, between 10 and 20 times. Her body was found in a field 3 days later. 2 women, 2 families destroyed, all in the span of a few hours. But here's the most chilling part of this entire story. After committing these murders, Wade Wilson called his biological father. Stephen Testaseca, Wade's biological father, received multiple calls from his son after the murders, and Wade didn't just admit what he did, he narrated the gruesome details. At first, Testaseca dismissed the calls, thinking Wade was just being a good storyteller, but then he put his phone on speaker with his wife listening and relaying information to police. Testaseca asked Wilson for his location and told him he would send an Uber. Instead, he gave Wilson's whereabouts to police. On October 8, 2019, police arrested Wade Wilson at an unoccupied home he'd broken into. But even behind bars, Wade Wilson continued to make headlines. In 2020, Wilson and his cellmate were accused of tampering with their jail cell window in an attempted escape. Wilson was reportedly the primary planner and even tried to set up a getaway car. Court records also connected Wilson to Unforgiven, Florida's largest white supremacist prison gang, founded in 1986. The gang requires members to study Aryan philosophy and get tattoos of swastikas, iron crosses, and SS bolts. Wilson sports several swastika tattoos, including one on the right side of his head and one below his right eye. In June 2024, Wade Wilson went on trial for his life. Before trial, he asked the court's permission to cover his numerous facial tattoos with makeup to look more presentable to the jury. He also requested to wear street clothes and get a haircut. The requests were granted, though his tattoos were still conspicuously visible throughout the trial. After testimony from 29 witnesses, the prosecution rested. Wilson did not testify on his own behalf. The jury found him guilty on all 6 counts. On June 25, 2024, the jury voted on Wilson's sentence. In Florida, death penalty recommendations don't have to be unanimous. You only need 8 votes. For Kristine Melton's murder, 9-3 in favor of death. For Diane Ruiz's murder, 10-2 in favor of death. On August 26, 2024, Judge Nicholas Thompson imposed 2 death sentences, and that's when State Attorney Amira Fox delivered one of the most scathing statements I've ever heard in a courtroom. She said this defendant is not going unnoticed, that this defendant is being idolized by some people who are somehow proud to mix their names with his through public comments, fundraising for him, or holding him up to be some sort of positive representation of a man, ignoring that he is nothing more than a vicious killer. She continued, his victims physically suffered tremendously due to his decision to kill, due to his horrific actions. They fought back. They fought for their lives. This defendant is no idol. It is disgraceful and pitiful to hold him up as such. Then she said something that should make every single person who sent him money or wrote him letters feel ashamed. This defendant is now nothing more than a number in the Florida Department of Corrections, awaiting death. Just after 1:30 a.m. on August 30, 2024, Wade Wilson was transferred to Florida's death row at Union Correctional Institution in Rayford. Right now, Wade Wilson lives in a cell measuring 6 feet by 9 feet by 9.5 feet high. He has no air conditioning. He's allowed a radio and a 13-inch TV with no cable. He wears an orange t-shirt to set him apart from other inmates. He's served 3 meals a day with a spork. He gets showers every other day. He's counted at least once an hour. He wears handcuffs everywhere except his cell, the exercise yard, and the shower. This is his life now, and this is his life until Florida executes him. The appeals process for death penalty cases can take decades. One inmate, Tommy Ziegler, has been on Florida's death row since 1976. The national average time from sentencing to execution is 227 months, almost 19 years. The documentary, Handsome Devil, Charming Killer, is streaming now on Paramount+. It explores not just his crimes, but the disturbing phenomenon of how a killer gained a following. But let me leave you with this. Kristine Melton was 35 years old. She loved Halloween. She made people feel safe.